you're in the Rainbow Ranch. If you've been following this channel for a little while, you're probably aware of a series that I attempted to launch around this time last year called How They Marketed. Now, the conceit of this series was born out of my frustration with the difficulty of marketing a YouTube video. Because ultimately, when you're trying to market a YouTube video, the most powerful tools at your disposal are your title and thumbnail. And if you don't make it very clear with the title of your video what it's going to be, and you don't make the thumbnail something that's immediately eye-grabbing from the sidebar, your video is as good as dead. Unless it's just so good, so noteworthy, that people who do click on it rampantly share it. And it catches on just through word of mouth, through spreading across the internet. And this has become less and less likely to happen as time has gone on, as more and more people are settled into watching things that they're already subscribed to or that they already know about, or just following, a train of thought between different things that cover stuff that they're already looking for. You don't get that same amount of people just being shown something, or there's not even as many avenues for sharing as there used to be. It seems like that brand of virality has sort of diminished over the years. But this is not the case in any other media form. And it doesn't make sense that you wouldn't be able to make something successful while still having an artful title, something that is not just a literal description of the video you're about to watch, but instead, something that is a title, the way that things mostly are. Naruto is not called Big Ninja long-form ninja action series. It's called Naruto. Why is it that people read it anyways? Well, because it ran in Shonen Jump magazine. And Shonen Jump magazine is a collection of stories that have been extremely popular over time. It has great word-of-mouth spread. The appearance of Naruto in that magazine is the marketing for Naruto. That's all the author had to do to market his series, was to get it published in that magazine. Now, as a YouTuber, there are no really sources for, getting cited by somebody else. I mean, you could maybe manage to have a video that PewDiePie talks about or something, and that can be a significant bump, but it basically just has to be the random luck of the draw that PewDiePie saw your video and it was interesting to him in particular. Sometimes you might get that kind of curation, but for the most part, that doesn't exist on YouTube. There's also no promotion for YouTube videos really going on in the way that there is for traditional media. You don't go and make an ad campaign for an individual YouTube video, because it would just seem like overkill, and it's not the way that YouTube fans are expecting things to be promoted to them. So, with the How They Marketed series, I wanted to explore how do traditional media sources, such as anime, go about marketing themselves. How do they get something that isn't just a description of itself in front of as many people as possible? And what I wanted to do was take each show, analyze its marketing gimmicks, and then use those marketing gimmicks to market my show, How They Marketed. I would take whatever that show did to market itself and then try to do that for my videos to see if you could market YouTube videos without having to use just a descriptive title and thumbnail. If you could market them virally in the traditional way that you would market a show. This project ended up falling apart because it was too big for its britches, but I'm still very interested in that idea, just because I am always compelled to choose the title for a video that makes the most sense to me as the title that, represents the core thematic resonance of the video. Not a title that is just a description of what's going to happen, but one that encapsulates the feeling of the video. And it's not always easy to do that, because if you have a video that's dryly descriptive, it causes people to expect that the video is itself going to be dry. when I make a video that maybe is a little bit more experimental, has more different layers going on, a different editing style, something that, you know, makes that video unique and more artful, to then slap a title on it that I feel undercuts that element of it, that undercuts the artistry of the video, it makes the video look boring to me, even though to most people, if they don't see a descriptive name, they're just not going to click on it because they don't know what it is. They have no context before they click on the thing because there's no external marketing. So ultimately, the title and thumbnail, what I've been trying to beat into my own head for years, and it's hilariously ironic that I've been saying this in YouTube videos for years, and other people have taken this advice and run with it and done better with it than I have, that the title and thumbnail is just marketing. It is not a part of the art. It is not, if anything, if you really want your video to have a title, you have to either put it in the description or have it as on-screen text at the start of your video. Because using the title of your video as just a title, you're throwing away the biggest marketing opportunity that you have. And, it's unfortunate to me how it's unfortunate that I have treated myself so poorly by not taking advantage of this marketing. That I have, made the mistake of trying to title things in ways that don't help them. And the biggest reason that it's disappointing to me, disappointed in myself, is that I have allowed so much content that I am legitimately proud of to be forgotten even by me. So many things where I created it in a more experimental style, then gave it a stupid title and thumbnail and nobody watched it, and then I considered it a failure, and I didn't return to that style even if it was something I enjoyed, even if it's something that I was proud of, And sometimes I go back through my YouTube history and I'm fascinated by what stuff I particularly remember and what stuff I particularly like. And I have a tendency to remember stuff that was successful and well received. I have a tendency to keep in mind things that got a lot of views and got a lot of positive comments because I want to continue to do things that will have that reaction. If something had negativity towards an experiment or just didn't really get watched by that many people, it tends to fall by the wayside, and then I might revisit some of that content and be like, wow, I really like this. Why did I undermarket this? Why didn't I talk about the fact that I had made this? Why didn't, in a video that I was marketing heavily, that I was, putting that extra bit of flair into the title and thumbnail, why when I made that video did I not then give a shout out to this other one? Do something to make people know that I had made something I was proud of. There's so many things in my back catalog that I would rather you go watch that than even go watch whatever video I might be making that I'm less proud of. And I want to, of course, reach a state where I'm proud of the majority of the content that I'm making. And, pride or no pride, I like creating things all the time. I like creating things that don't necessarily require the kind of effort or thought that, goes into something I'm going to be really proud of. Not every idea is so amazing that it needs to be a fully realized video, even if it's still a good enough idea that I want it to be a video nonetheless. But, I wish that I was able to make more of the things that I care about, and the way I can make myself able to do that is through marketing. It's through, making sure that if I'm making something I'm proud of, I let you know. I draw you in as much as possible. I really try to put it in front of you, and I've failed at that so hard. And what got me thinking about this was revisiting a video that I made way back called The Reluctant YouTuber. And just watching back parts of it, particularly the start of the video, the editing style was very different. And it even says in the description that I had found a way to edit that matched the way that I think. And I thought it was exactly like that. The way that this video was edited was, it felt like the way that I think about, just the way that my train of thought plays out. And seeing that and seeing that little notation there, I thought that should have been the marketing gimmick of this video. Like, I should have been going around saying, or even saying in that video somewhere in text, I don't know, just like, hey, you know, I'm trying to create a style that says something about me, that says something about the way I think, that, you know, create a narrative element to it, give you a reason to be invested or to see it as something artful and not just random experimentation for the sake of itself, you know, to understand where I'm coming from, and then to give the video, you know, a better thumbnail, for instance. Like, the title is fine, but the thumbnail is basically nothing on that video. So, you know, and it's not even that it was like dramatically underperformed. It got 13,000 views. It's an After Dark video that's pretty average. I was probably fine with the reception that it got, because I always make the assumption that my stuff just won't appeal to people. Like, I always assume that because the content is niche, because it is weird, and because some people have averse reactions to it, that it just isn't worth putting the extra effort into trying to push it to everybody, because it's inevitably not going to be enjoyed by everybody. But I'm not even giving it the opportunity to do that. And sure, it's difficult to know where to cut your losses, where to just say, okay, this one's not working out, you know, this one's not good enough, not enough people are going to enjoy this. But, you know, if I have that sense of pride, if I am, you know, enthusiastic about the thing that I've created, I hope that I will do a better job of really pushing on it, of really being like, I care about this, please go watch it. And sometimes I see where just the conception that I don't feel that way is enough to make some people feel less about the content. There was a comment that had fascinated me on my Fuck the Main Channel video that I did on After Dark, announcing that I was going to be basically posting everything to the main channel from now on, including videos like this one. It was a comment that was talking about how my content lately had just sucked, but particularly that the person thought it was like normie tier content. And it was clear that he thought that the reason I had chosen the subjects I had chosen was because they were in the popular eye, that they were things that, you know, I wouldn't have talked about if not for the fact that they were a big deal. And he was partially right. One of them that he called out was the Sonic movie thing. You know, obviously if the Sonic movie wasn't a hot topic of conversation, I wouldn't have covered it, but I did have an idea that I legitimately wanted to state about the movie, so it was kind of a, you know, it was kind of a good place and time thing. I generally don't cover things just because they're popular. I cover things that they're popular and I have something to say. The Detective Pikachu video was the second one he cited, and that one, you know, I basically justified going to see the movie by the fact that I knew I could make a video about it and potentially a lot of people would watch it because it was a new, hot movie. That didn't really work out. Not a lot of people watched it because I didn't have that much of interest to say. But, you know, for me, it was kind of a no-brainer to make a video like that just because I can write a script in less than an hour, edit a video in like 15 minutes, you know, get 35K views, and that pays off the 2 movie tickets I bought, you know. So at the very least, it's, you know, it's worth its own existence. But I could see why, you know, for an audience member, they won't care for that. Where things got weird was when he mentioned the Metroid Prime video as something that he saw as like normcore or pandering or something, and I thought, how can you possibly think that? First of all, this game is 15 years old and nobody's talking about it anymore. But second of all, I did this because I'm extremely passionate about the Nintendo GameCube, and the fact that I've never talked about it before might be why, you know, might be why it comes as a surprise to some people, because, you know, I have a lot of things I'm passionate about, and I haven't gotten around to a lot of it because I've fixated on anime because that's where most of my audience came from, and I've always been afraid of trying to jumble too many different things on the same channel. You know, I don't want anime viewers unsubscribing because I post too much gaming content, or, you know, if I have too much gaming content and I start gaining subscribers from there, they're going to unsub because of the anime content, and that's why I was trying to split all this stuff into separate channels, but that didn't really work out. So at this point I'm just like, fuck it, we're just putting it all on one channel, we're going to see what happens. You know, forget about the logic, let's just look at the raw stats once this all starts happening, you know. But I've been a huge GameCube fan for a long time. If you watched the launch window video, I literally have a picture of me dressed as a GameCube. That was a Halloween costume that I wore one year. So, in a case like that, I launched the GameCube Forever series out of just wanting to make gaming content and wanting to make it about something I cared about, the GameCube catalog. And I was deeply invested in it. The videos I'm very happy with, all the ones that I've made so far have been like, I did a lot of research, I played the game thoroughly, I tried to cover it from like as much mechanical depth as possible. I tried to, look at every aspect of the game and sort of break down the logic of why it was created the way it was, what is special about it, what are the drawbacks, just to be a really in-depth analysis of these games. And, I made these and I posted them to the I Am Games channel, which was not very successful. It's a channel that doesn't have a ton of subscribers, doesn't have a ton of viewers, it's been slow growing, and I gave them maybe not the best thumbnails, maybe not the best titles, threw them on this channel, and I didn't make main channel videos announcing each of these. I didn't mention them by name in my bigger videos that I knew were going to get more views. I, have mentioned I Am Games here and there are some people who will complain if you promote something too much, but fuck those people, because I have to promote it or else it's not going to get views, and I am passionate about it, and I want the people who might enjoy it to find it. Maybe that's not very many people. Maybe the GameCube, which only sold 21 million copies, doesn't have that huge of a fan base, and, doesn't have the same nostalgia drive that, that the Super Nintendo or the NES had when people were covering those for, nostalgia purposes from, reflecting on their own childhoods. Or maybe the gaming analysis market is too saturated, or people just don't really care about hearing about old games anymore, which, when I got into YouTube, was the primary focus of most gaming channels, was on nostalgia. No doubt because of AVGN. But, whatever the case may be, it's not fair for me to just assume that because these videos were not immediately successful, or that they're not currently, getting the views that I would want them to have, that they can't, and that I should give up on them, and that I shouldn't keep talking about them, shouldn't keep promoting them, shouldn't, put my faith in my own passion and my heart, because I would rather be doing those videos than doing something that is obvious, that is, that is what people already want from me. It's like, I want to do the things I want to do, so how can I make that more possible, And if it's impossible, fine. I'm not going to complain about that, I expect a lot of my ideas to not catch on, to not be popular, for people to just think it's shit. But giving up before even giving it a shot is just, weak-minded, in my opinion. That was a longer segment than I expected, but, I used to do, for those who don't know, a series of shows on the After Dark channel that came one after another. I'll explain it in a different clip. I really don't want to show off too much of my house when I haven't completely set it up yet. But I'm now looking myself directly in the eyes, and that's weird. I guess I should be looking down at the camera. Also, I'm talking quiet like this because May's asleep. I mean, I think she probably could still hear me, but whatever. Anyway, I used to do a series of shows on the After Dark channel. The first one was Migraine Reviews Digi Edition. And it was based on a series that Endless Jess, my favorite YouTuber and one of my best friends, had done called Migraine Reviews. He had done like 3 different videos of this style, but the basic idea is that, his main YouTube content was reviews, analytical reviews, but with a strong narrative and comedy component where, his videos were constructed like films. They were constructed with the expectation that they were, meant to be complete pieces of art, complete works that happen to also comment on something else. And they're fantastic. But the Migraine Reviews were sort of a deconstruction of the style of reviews that he did. One that was less fixated on having something meaningful to say about the game and more fixated on the idea of this review structure and, the mental anguish he was feeling about trying to launch a career in this field and not succeeding necessarily, or just even personal things that were ailing him in his life. And so I had made my own version of that, Migraine Reviews Digi Edition. But I decided that I wanted to try to make something that was closer to my own voice and style, because I like to go on and on. I like to have long passages of thought. I, basically wanted to do it where instead of trying to make it a video that is tightly paced, that has, that feels like a film, something that's more of a vlog that just has multiple segments and follows a train of thought over the course of a night. So instead of being just like, I sat down with the camera and made a point, it's like, follow this train of thought with me as I spend all night thinking, as I stay up contemplating things into the wee hours. And whatever comes to mind in the course of however long I decide to work on this will be included in this video. So I created Insomnia Analysis, and that was the flagship sort of series on the After Dark channel. I did 3 videos in the Insomnia Analysis series. They're all very different from each other. And then I moved. I hit the road. I was no longer living in the same place, but I wanted to do a similar style of video in the next place I went to. But inevitably it was going to feel very different, because a huge part of the way that I staged my vlogs, especially in the Insomnia Analysis era, was on the basis of the layout of my room. I had this gigantic room full of anime posters and shelf units and all this stuff set up that I would, move around and bounce around and like show all these different angles and, use it as sort of a set, as a prop. And when I moved into my next place, I didn't really have the ability to do that because the house was much smaller. My office space was pretty small, which was the part where I had all the posters. And a lot of the house I couldn't record in because there was a loud-ass heater that, was in the middle of the house. And it was like if I wasn't in a room with the door closed and the audio was just garbage. I cared more about audio quality back then. But, so I made a series called The Meta Hole, and that also had 3 episodes. And as I spent time in that house, when I had made my early videos, such as the first Meta Hole, a lot of people were saying that they thought it was just not as interesting as the old Insomnia Analysis because of how, underutilized the visuals and the space were. That it wasn't as cool because it wasn't in that old room. And so, as I continued filming vlogs in that space, I got really bored with showing the same angles with, how little I had to work with. So I started incorporating elements of just throwing visual filters on everything, of making things different colors or weird grain filters and shit and just all kinds of stuff to just try to make the footage look different and more vibrant. And, I like that kind of thing because I'm a huge fan of like Akiyuki Shinbo and Shaft, and like the styles of stuff that I like is like bold, single color, harsh lighting, and it's not to say that I necessarily was doing it well, but it's in the vein of things that I enjoy, and it allowed me to shake up my setting with, without having to move around since there was no space. But it didn't click with people the same way. And I think part of that is that it was too many changes at the same time that I wasn't explaining well enough. And people had their own ideas about why the changes were happening. And, when I look back on those videos, I see it as this naturally makes sense to me. Like, given what the circumstances were, why, like, I think a lot like anime, right? Anime is constructed out of its limitations. The creators look at, the small teams and small budgets that they have, and they say, what's the most interesting thing we can create with this? And that's why a studio like Shaft, that might not have that much actual animation, that might be mostly stills for 22 minutes an episode, thinks, how can we make stills interesting? How can we make, a character just talking into the camera fun to watch? And the answer to that is usually to do something just visually interesting with it, to make it artfully crafted, even if it's meaningless, even if there's no substance to the reason they're doing it that way. The point is just that it will not get boring in spite of the fact that there's no animation, because it's fun to look at. And that's kind of the same mentality that I took in those vlogs at that time. In general, I know I'm going to be recording segments of me just talking for 10, 20 minutes at a time. What can I do to make that different, to shake that up? I want to show it from a different angle. I want to not always be in the same place. I want to not always, be droning on and on at the same desk. It's like, I want you to see something that you didn't expect, see something you haven't seen before, even if it's incredibly minor, even if the change is so minute, it still has some value to me, and that's the kind of thing that I enjoy. So I look back at that content and I think, okay, I get exactly what I was going for here, but it's not inherently as good as, even if I was pushing the limitations and trying to do the best I could with them. The fact of the matter is that before that, I didn't have those limitations. I just had a better set. And for the audience, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what I'm experiencing, really. It matters what the end product is. And if the end product of the visual filter stuff is not as good as the end product of what I can do just by having an interesting living space, then ultimately it's going to be worse for the audience. So I moved again. I lived in Boston for a little while, and when I first moved in, I had a problem where I was losing a lot of patrons because I wasn't putting out content really for a couple of months, and I wasn't doing a good job explaining the projects I was working on. I've told this story plenty of times, but when I first moved in, I started up the next in this series, which was the Gecko Estate. And with the Gecko Estate, I, once again was pushing the idea of recording in lots of different locations. I got down this technique where I would only record for like a couple of minutes and then change camera angles consistently so that it would, always continue to be interesting to watch and never get bogged down in one space for too long like this video is. But, the reason I'm doing that right now is the same reason as I did in the first Gecko Estate, which was that there was nothing set up yet. And there never would be in the Gecko Estate. The house I lived in, we never ended up really having the means to decorate it, to build a full set, to make it like the place before. Imagine how great it would be if something like that old anime room were expanded out to an entire house. If the entire house was interesting, cool angles to look at on camera. That's what I wanted to do at my last place, and I just couldn't afford it. And again, I tried the best with the limitations I had. I tried to make that space look interesting using colored lights or, just the fact that it was such a big house and I could move across it over the course of a shot, that I could go into different rooms. That was, somewhat appealing and added to it, but it still wasn't the same. And, I did improve the editing of these along the way as well, which helps a lot. Like, I think that the editing of, the Meta Hole, and especially the editing of Gecko Estate is just a lot more interesting than the old Insomnia analysis videos. But, again, it's not all about just that. It's about, there's a lot of different factors that play into what make these videos resonate with certain people. And, of course, different audiences have different eras that they enjoy the most. Like, personally, the Gecko Estate are my favorites. I don't really return to Insomnia analysis. I don't find it that entertaining to look back on because I think that it was striking because I had never done something like it before. and that it was the birth of a new kind of style, a new idea, and that was, you know, made it iconic. And so to continue making things that are in the same vein, inevitably they're going to get compared back to the initial emotional reaction of seeing that. And, you know, depending on when you saw it or what order you saw things in, it might change that. But for me, like, if I'm going to go back and re-watch any of these videos, it would be the Gecko Estate ones. So, you know, and I've never considered them particularly rewatchable. I've never considered them videos that were necessarily great, that necessarily were, you know, something that would be good legacy content, so much as just something that has a lot of impact when you see it. That the uniqueness of the angles, of the style, of just the fact that it's a type of video that doesn't really exist elsewhere, is the point of it. It's just to, you know, cozy up with me for an hour and be taken down the pathways of my mind. It's something that feels the most like hanging out with me, I think. But like the Reluctant YouTuber one, which is part 3 of the Meta Hole, that one didn't just feel like hanging out with me. It felt like hanging out in my mind. And that was what made that one interesting to me to rewatch. And, you know, I don't know if I conveyed that enough, and I wish, again, that I had done more in that style. I really want to implement what I consider a media melt style, and this is what I was really going for with how they marketed and Finish or Fail. Like, if you watch the old Finish or Fail video, the one that was on the main channel for spring 2018 shows or whatever, that video, maybe it was winter 2018, it perfectly encapsulates the editing style that I wanted to do for how they marketed, especially the last like 8 minutes of it, which were edited by me, which was supposed to be episode 0 of how they marketed. It's this style of combining music, images, different like sort of pathways of thought, a video that, you know, it naturally has this flow where you can't quite tell where it's going, but it logically follows. And that's my favorite way to edit. That's my favorite way to make videos. And, you know, to melt these different media styles into each other. You can see that that was what I was going for with the Cramming Anime in Your Face video, which I've renamed to How Anime Magazines Crammed Anime in Your Face, something like that. To make it more descriptive, because again, you know, I couldn't think of really an artful title for that video, so I tried to give something just that was maximum clickbait, but I think it came off as too clickbaity and people just didn't click on it, so I tried to make it more descriptive with the new title. But, you know, it was just a video that the main thrust of it was the idea of it being this media melt experience going between, you know, me talking into the camera, old commercials for New Type magazine, showing, you know, the magazines themselves in a somewhat interesting presentation. Like, all of that was the, you know, the core idea, and that's what I want to do more of going forward. Of course, it's not something you can just force. It basically has to be that you have an idea for a video that works in that format. And sometimes I have ideas that just work better as analysis videos, you know, that are just more straightforward of ideas. They don't need to be edited in like a crazy creative way. But yeah, like, so going forward, I would like to create more stuff like that. And this video is sort of in the vein of the Insomnia analysis style, the trilogy of different series that I created over time. But I don't have enough of the house done. It's not ready to have a big, crazy, wacky, experimental video filmed in it. And it takes time to set that kind of thing up. And what I've learned as a YouTuber is that I have to be open about everything going on and what the logic is and why. And there are a lot of people who don't like that in some way. Like, every time I make a video talking about content changes and plans I have going forward, there's a lot of people who take it as like, oh, Digi's doing that thing again where he talks about how he's going to change the direction of his content and blah, 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 and like he's always trying to make something work, but it's not working. He just needs to do what makes sense. And it's like, that's not the point of making these videos. It's not for me to complain or to talk about how I need to change directions for this and that reason. I just want to explain my logic because I'm going to do it anyways, and I was doing it before. Like, I'm always changing content styles. It's always been my MO. It's just the way I do things. I like things to be different all the time. You know, me explaining my logic is not to say that this was necessary or that it was the only way forward or that it even is the thing that makes the most sense. It's just so that there's an explanation, so that when things are different, you know why, and also so that content comes out in that interim. Because if I'm, you know, working on something that takes a lot of build-up to come out, then there's a gap left there, and if I don't explain what's going on, people don't know, and they just assume the worst. You know, again, when I didn't talk about how they marketed was supposed to be, then a lot of people unpledged because it was just me saying I'm working on a series that nobody has any reason to think is going to be good or has any idea what the hell it's meant to be, because I was trying to keep it under wraps. And I used to have this overwhelming fear of talking about things, because if you talk about something that you plan to do, you get the same emotional high that you would get from creating it. This is a psychological principle that, when I learned about it, scared me shitless because I had done that plenty of times. I've had tons of times where I discussed a project and in doing so, you know, killed it. And I've learned how to do it without quite making that happen by describing something in a different way from the way that it would be understood by watching it, you know? Like me describing how they marketed works wouldn't have had to kill it, because I didn't have to talk about why, like how individual videos were going to work, or even if I did, I didn't have to talk about what was going to be in them. You know, there's always some kind of surprise. There's always some idea that I don't have to spoil for myself. You know, but at the same time, I get restless sometimes. Like, I want to make videos that use this whole house. Like, you know, right now I'm trying to film in other rooms because I was looking at my vlogs and getting worried about the fact that I keep filming in the office. I keep filming on that backdrop, and I'm very proud of the backdrop I built, the magazine cutout rainbow. Like, you know, I just built like 8 posters out of magazine cutouts and put them up, and I think it looks great. I'm very happy with it as like a general set backdrop, but it's not indicative of the way things are supposed to be going. You know, I just saw that this stool over here has a fuckload of spider egg sacs on it that need to be taken care of before they hatch. In any case, you know, if I'm haven't finished building the house, I can't film things in other rooms. The set looks boring, and nobody has a sense of what I'm trying to do. And I have been pretty veiled about it. And I've given all these vague answers, like, you know, about like changing content styles, but not really saying what I mean by that. Well, I'll tell you what I mean by that. Moving in here, I plan to build out sets in each different room in the house that have their own unique color aesthetics, and then to portray different characters within those settings who will cover different styles. You know, each video I do, I want to have a fully realized aesthetic. That was kind of the theory going into moving here, was that, you know, the videos I was going to make would each be more complete works, because I would consider what aesthetically made sense with the idea and base both the script and video around that. So for instance, I have this video I've written that I haven't edited yet called May's Hat. It's about my fiance May's hat. She wears this hat that is, in my opinion, perfectly representative of her aesthetic. So I wrote an analysis of the hat and how it complements her aesthetic. And then the conceit of the video is that it itself will represent that aesthetic through the editing and through the color usage and all that. Sort of, it's a proof of concept of the whole idea of what I want to do here. And cramming anime in your face was the first thing that I kind of tried to do that with, where, You know, it opens with the commercial for the magazine. I'm speaking like I'm a salesperson because I'm talking about sales. You know, I'm basically pitching marketing gimmicks to you while talking about marketing gimmicks. So, you know, there's layers to the aesthetic of that video that make it work and make it fun to watch and return to, because it feels like a complete piece. It feels like something rewatchable. And the biggest problem I have with my own content is that a lot of it's not that rewatchable. I mean, a lot of the analysis videos are if you care about the show and just want to hear the analysis again, or if you like the sound of my voice or the way that it's written. But like, I don't have a ton of videos that I can just show people or like watch over and over again that like are such a complete work that you see it and you get it and you go, that was fun, I'm gonna catalog that and watch it again in the future, you know. And I want to have more stuff like that. So that's essentially what the plan is, but it's been taking some time because, again, I don't necessarily have the means to just build all this out immediately. Like, you know, I have to purchase things. I, you know, just moved, so I had like a huge deficit of money, you know, in the process of moving. And I'm also trying to save up for debt reasons. But nonetheless, you know, I'm not saving like super seriously. I'm not like in a crazy bad situation. I mean, I'm fine. I just bought a Switch, so I'm clearly not saving that much. But like, you know, in the time it takes to build all this stuff and to get to that point, what do I do in the interim? And that's why you got a Sonic video and a Detective Pikachu video and a Mob Psycho video that have nothing to do with this idea of the changes going forward. And so I might talk about, I'm going to make this sweeping change to my content. And then I post one video that's like that, and then a bunch that aren't, and people go, well, where's the change? Well, it hasn't come yet. It takes time. It's a sweeping change. It takes a lot of building. It takes a lot of preparation. And I can't just disappear until it's done. I tried that and it failed. You know, I have to be here. I have to be making content, chronicling the adventure, letting you know how things are going, so that, you know, that time is filled and you have a sense of what's going on, something to be excited about. And the people who get excited do get excited. You know, there's plenty of people who are always down on it. Every time I make a video that's like, oh, I'm changing the content, I'm doing this, and here's my new idea, there's a lot of people who are going to question it, who are going to come down hard on it, who are going to say, well, didn't the last one fail? And sometimes the last one succeeded and it just wasn't obvious. Or sometimes the concept, the execution of the concept was different from the way that it sounded and the way I pitched it, because everything I pitch sounds way more extreme than my intentions actually are. But, you know, in this particular case, it's just sort of a matter of time. And, you know, in the wake of making those smaller videos, May and I had both thought it would be good to make just a classic big anime analysis, because I hadn't done one in a while. You know, not since whatever the last part of Log Horizon I did was, part 4, I think. I don't think I've done just a big anime analysis video since then, until Utena. So, like, you know, let me give you another setting. I've inherited this tree that was in the old castle house that was just there. Anyway, one of the perfect examples of how the peanut gallery, so to speak, can be missing some of the information is in this Utena video. So this video, I did not have expectations of it being very successful. Revolutionary Girl Utena has never been that popular of a show. I've known this for a long time because I did this series, it was just a blog post that I later made into a video about how my tastes compare to the average fans. And I went through all of my favorites and their MAL stats and talked about what their score was, as well as how popular they were, how many lists they appear on MAL. And Utena was always one of my least popular favorites, in spite of the fact that it's so beloved by the people who care about it. It also had a much lower score back then, because the show it's contentious. I mean, it's a weird show. It's not for everyone. It's not a show that everybody who watches is going to think is a classic or a masterpiece. You know, it's definitely not going to have the broad appeal of like a Gurren Lagann or a Hunter x Hunter or something, which are all, you know, also in my favorites list. But you know, it's something that a lot of my fans care about, that a lot of people in my Discord request, that a lot of people on YouTube request, you know, in my comments. When I made that video about wanting to reach 1 million subscribers by the end of 2018, which that plan went out the window because of life drama that happened not long afterwards. But, you know, the conceit of it was that I said, leave a comment with what show you want me to cover, and whatever gets the most upvotes, I'll cover. And the most upvotes went to Revolutionary Girl Utena. But, like, that's not because the show is so popular and so many people want, you know, like, want to see a video about it. It's because my audience wanted me to talk about it. Partly because people know I'm a fan of it. I've hinted at the fact that I would do an analysis for a long time. And the kind of people who like anime analysis tend to like Utena because it's a show that's ripe for analysis. So I've been planning to do it for forever. You know, I always knew I was going to cover it, but the main reason I never did cover it was because it's so unpopular and 39 episodes long. Like, I always figured if I'm going to cover Utena, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to have to rewatch the show. I'm going to have to read other people's writing about it so that I have some, you know, context into what I'm going to say. I'm going to have to, you know, really make sure I explain it well, because a lot of people care deeply about this show and will be upset if I don't do a good job. So, you know, it was going to be a high intensity project. And, you know, when you make a video that long, it's going to take a lot of time to edit if you want to do a serious editing job. And all of that is a lot to ask for something I know is not going to be successful. So I did it, though, because, again, I just thought it would be the best move for the fans, for the patrons, for people who are paying me to, you know, to make the kind of videos that I make, who, a lot of whom's their favorite is the long-form analysis videos, and those are my favorite too. You know, like, I remember those the most clearly. Those are the things I'm the most proud of. My long-form analysis videos are, in my opinion, usually my best work. So, you know, it was like, yeah, it would be great to get one of those out, you know, right now, right after I just moved, so that it's not like a long wait. Because if all I was doing was trying to build out my sets and, you know, create this new wave of content, then, again, you're going to go a long time without getting the thing that you might want the most. So, you know, I spent some time making this video. And then I put out a video talking about my Why Are You Here video, where I talk about the fact that this video didn't get that many views. And I also had put out a Twitter poll where I was asking people why they didn't watch the video. Now, this wasn't because I didn't know. It's because I want to know the specific reasons. I put in my poll, you know, is it because you haven't seen Utena, because you don't care about Utena, because the video is too long, or because, I don't remember what the fourth thought, or you just haven't gotten around to it yet. And the majority answer was, I haven't seen Utena yet, or I don't care about Utena, which is what I thought. But, you know, I just want to have that data so that I know going forward, like, why exactly something like this, you know, would happen. So, like, when I talk about it, there are people who are like, oh, well, obviously a video about a 20-year-old anime, you know, wasn't going to be successful. Yes, it was obvious that that would be the case, but the purpose of the video wasn't to get a lot of views. But at the same time, you know, I was also making this video about the fact that videos I'm making are not getting a lot of views. But that was not because of Utena, it's because of the other things surrounding it. The other things that seemed like they should have gotten it, but didn't. You know, and I'm not going to go on about that. I already recorded a different video that I ended up not publishing that was just explaining the algorithm in more depth and, like, basically a rebuttal to the negative comments I got about the fuck YouTube video. But, you know, I get too hung up on negative comments and even just people's opinions, because they're always minority opinions that don't represent everybody. And, you know, more importantly, it shakes my faith in the content that I need to have in order to give it the chance that it deserves. You know, like, if I were to just listen to those negative comments, then it would be like, you're going to just kill this thing that has a chance just because someone thinks it doesn't, when someone will always think it doesn't. You know, people already thought that my content wouldn't have a chance in the beginning. Clearly it did. You know, and what matters is that I'm successful. What matters is that people are, you know, people do resonate with it and are still giving me money to do it, you know, and those are the people who ultimately matter the most. But even then, it's not just about pleasing those people, because, you know, if one patron or two patrons are upset with the way that the content is going, it's like, well, you know, I have to consider the fact that there are other people who will like it who might replace you, you know, in the long run. And, you know, I still want to, I don't want to, you know, just completely leave behind my, you know, longtime patrons or dedicated, you know, fans, because obviously I have a lot of respect for them, and like the fact that what's the word I'm looking for? You're the ones who put me on, you know, like I wouldn't have anything without my fans. So like I don't want anybody to come away like completely disappointed, but at the same time, people are going to come and go, their tastes are going to change, and you know, they might not like what I do now, and I'm not going to just try to benefit people who've been around for a long time. It's like, you know, you can kind of take or leave what I'm doing. I'm going to try to make it something you'll enjoy, and I'll try to, you know, make sure that all of my bases are covered and you're still getting what you want, but ultimately I'm going to favor whatever I think is, you know, good for me, as well as the most audience possible within the confines of what's good for me. I've lost my train of thought by going down this avenue. You know, regardless of people who, you know, come in and out or do or don't like the new content that's coming out, there's also very much the idea of the valued customer that I think is worth more consideration. The way I've always operated, and I know I've said this many times, is that I cast a wide net and then narrow it down. You know, I make videos that appeal to as many people as possible so that I draw people in, and then I make something that will only appeal to 1/10 of those people. And that 1/10, it will appeal to them much more strongly than the original thing, because it's something more specific to them. And this was kind of the idea behind the channel split, that the main channel was for the people who, you know, the main channel was to cast the wide net. The After Dark channel was to get more specific, even though the main channel has tons of specific content on it. It has tons of shit that's not broadly appealing, but you're not going to find much stuff that's broadly appealing on the After Dark channel, you know? So all of it is always like, cast the wide net, narrow it down. Cast the wide net, narrow it down, you know? And I've done that for a long time, and I have enough. I have enough now. Like, not to say that I don't want more. I will always want as many as I can find, and it's hard to find new people if you don't cast a wide net. Like, there might be someone who's into my niche stuff who hasn't found me yet, and who will find me when I cast that wide net. But I think I've casted enough of those wide nets that most people have heard of me. Like, I'm not an obscure figure, especially in the anime community. Most people know about Digibro. Most people have already formed an opinion, you know? And ultimately, the people who are going to, you know, return, who are going to say, oh, like, the Digibro guy is doing something that I like, it's going to be the people who are into the niche stuff. I don't feel like there's much need to cast the wide net anymore. I think that, you know, it's still something I will probably do occasionally, but it's just not that necessary, because I'm already making enough money to sustain myself. I'm making it, like, you know, a great amount. You know, I could stand to spend it a lot better and just be better at managing it. And, you know, previously I kind of viewed getting more money as my brute force approach to how I'm going to, you know, fix monetary issues in my life. But, like, there's other ways to go about making more money than just casting wide nets, you know, creating a diverse set of revenue sources, such as making t-shirts, which I plan to do soon. You know, just finding or doing a better job of promoting my Amazon Associates link, which I always make money from when I promote it, and I never remember to promote it. Link in the description, hopefully.
I'm just going to put the link in every description. I need to add it to my copy pasta that I put in the description of every video. Um, I don't know why I didn't do that already. But yeah, like the the niche appeal people are the valued customers because they're the patrons. They're the ones who are going to come back video after video. They're the ones who are going to watch the After Dark content. And that return viewership is more valuable to me than somebody who only is around for the broad content. That broad content is not for my fans. It's for bringing in new fans. And, there's still a lot of people whose favorite stuff is going to be the broadly appealing stuff, but, um, you know, most of the people who get into me in a big way, that stuff kind of falls by the wayside because, I mean, there's so much content. Like, you're going to forget you even saw that shit when you're done watching 100 fucking vlogs, in a month. So, you know, if the if the valued customers who I'm after, I should be focusing on appealing to them as much as possible. I should make it as good for them as I can. And what makes it less good for them is when I'm trying to cast a wide net. Because the more time I spend, the more energy I spend on that, the more stuff comes out that those people don't care about. Those people do not care about me making a short form review of the Detective Pikachu movie. They're fine with it. They're not going to turn their nose up at it. They're going to watch it because they're going to watch everything I do, but is it what they really want? Is it closer to the raw Digibro experience that they're paying for? No. And, even if it comes to making long form analytical anime videos, like something like the Utena video is easier for me to do now because I have this cushion. Like, when there was a time where releasing an hour-long video that took that much work would have been a huge risk. It's not anymore. It wasn't a risk. It didn't matter what the view count was. It doesn't even matter that a lot of my patrons haven't seen the show. A lot of them will watch the show, in anticipation of the video. There were people watching the show. There are people who are that excited about, the opportunity to hear about a Digibro analysis of something, And I sound like I'm just sucking my own dick now, but, like, that is something to consider, when I go about making a video. It's not about, is this going to get the most possible views? It's, is this going to be the most appealing to the people who find me appealing because those are the valued customers. And when I made my video, Why Are You Here? And granted, this video was posted on After Dark, but the overwhelming majority of the response was, I come from your unique perspective. I watch whatever you do. A lot of people who said, I don't even watch the main channel. I only watch After Dark. I get that all the time. And it used to surprise me. It used to be like, huh, that's unique. Oh, you must be weird. And then at some point, it became that was what the majority of people were saying. That was what most of the patrons were saying. Is, I have people literally paying me who don't watch anime. Who are like, yeah, I don't watch your anime content because I don't give a shit about anime. And that's when I have to say, okay, why am I talking about anime then? If you don't care. Because I've managed to have success in the anime community before, but that kind of success isn't necessarily important. And obviously I'm not going to stop talking about anime because it's like the biggest element of my life. I care a lot about it, which is why I'm capable of talking about it in the first place. But if the appeal is that you get to listen to Digibro talk, let's focus on that appeal. Let's focus on making that experience as good as it can be. And this video is not that. This video is not the best possible Digibro experience. It's not the best possible vlog. It's not as good as an Insomnia analysis or a Metahole or a Gecko Estate because it's just me droning into a camera for an hour. Um, I only even consider it a part of that lineage because I am tired and I just kind of woke up in the middle of the night. And I was adding stuff to my Essential Digibro playlist, which is a playlist that is just compiled of things that help you to understand my mentality towards media, why I analyze things the way I do. So I consider that playlist, the essentials to understanding the perspective you're getting from the actual analytical videos. But I was adding stuff into that I had made more recently, and like in the process watching some old stuff and thinking about it, thinking about the mindset that went into it and what needs to change and what needs to be, what needs to be highlighted, what how to market these things better, how to make them better, how to get closer to something that is artistically fulfilling for me while also being enjoyable for the fans, and opening up the communication so that the fans understand why it's artistically satisfying for me, not just making something that is a little bit more esoteric and then blaming people for not getting it, but just explaining it and doing so in a way that the explanation is as visible as the content itself. I just want to be more robust with my content. I have a tendency to not think about it from every angle. I have a tendency to speed through what I create. I tend to flip on a camera and just go, and then when I'm done talking, I just stop talking, and then I don't film anything else, and then I just publish it. And then I look back at it and I go, there's a lot missing from this. There's a lot of context that would help this to make more sense. There's a lot of narrative threads I could have spun into this that would make you care about it more, that would make you understand why I made something like this. There's more, you know, plugs that I should have given at the end, like my Patreon, where if you pledge $1, then you get access to my Discord, which has an active discussion community. Or if you pledge $5, you get the every 2 weeks I do a review of my life with May of 90 minutes of reviewing everything that we did in the last 2 weeks. It's a lot of fun. If you're a $15 patron, you get a rant, and if you're a $40 patron, you get a care package. Depending on if those slots fill up this month, I might add more slots to it. Yeah. Listen to Artso Fartso's Whirling Dervish podcast. I'm probably going to re-upload it to this channel. It's the thing I'm the most proud of right now. So there you go. There's my self-promotion of my other content. At the very back of an hour-long video that not many people are going to watch, I promote my other hour-long podcasts that nobody's also going to watch. But fuck it. I'm real goddamn proud of Artso Fartso's Whirling Dervish podcast. I want it to succeed. I want it to be listened to by new people who are not just Digibro fans, but also all the Digibro fans. If you're a fan of me and you're not listening to that podcast, you're missing out. God damn it.